Hi everyone, welcome to Edie's Craft Room. I'm Hannah Catherine Smith. Well, it was only a matter of time. I don't think it was that long ago that I talked about how garment sewing absolutely terrified me, and here we are today. So I am thrilled to share with you the first garment that I have completed, and that is a quilted jacket. And I am so proud of it. Now, a little bit of backstory here. One of my dear friends, who is one of the most stylish people I know, said to me a few weeks ago that she would love a quilted jacket. And she certainly was not asking me to do anything for her, just expressing her love for this style, and she knew that I was a quilter. So that got the wheels turning a little bit, and soon enough, I was shopping for fabric and putting together a project. And pretty soon, I had this to show for it. This was a brand new experience for me, and I love how it merged the world of quilting that I've been learning so much about in the past couple of years with the broader world of sewing, and it really did challenge me. I'm not so sure when the next garment that I'm going to sew is going to be, because it certainly was an adventure. But overall, I'm really proud of this and cannot wait to wrap it up and send it to my friend as a surprise. But first, I wanted to share with you all a little bit more about this journey and some details on this jacket so that you could make it for yourself as well. And Gumbo helped a lot, as he does with all of my projects. Also, make sure you stay until the end because I have a very fun milestone to celebrate. 1,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing, humbling, and so exciting for me. I am just honored that over 1,000 of you have chosen to follow along with my crafting journey, and so I would just love to say thank you for that. So stick around until the end so you can learn what you need to do to be a part of that. I made this jacket from a pattern, and the pattern is from a company called By Hand London. I found them on Instagram as I was searching through quilted jackets, and this is variation 2. So they have a long one that has like a collar and different pockets, but my friend expressed to me that she liked more of the cropped looking ones, and this one actually didn't turn out cropped, but it's a little bit shorter. And so that is what I made. Now, I definitely had a learning curve with using a pattern like this. It's certainly different from a quilting pattern. This is truly the first garment I've ever made, just for the record. So I went ahead and downloaded the PDF that they have on their website, printed it out, pieced the pattern together, and then spent some time on the floor laying everything out, cutting it. Gumbo loved every minute of this. He thought it was his personal mission to help me. And so together we got it done. And then from there, I went and started sewing. The patterned fabric I used was Aunt Grace Calicos Purple Garden Yardage. This is by Judy Rothemel for Marcus Fabrics. And then the solid color fabric I used was the Centennial Solids Orchid Yardage, and that was also from Marcus Fabrics. Now, I have a bad habit of just kind of glancing through the pattern and then doing things the way I wanted to do. So I really don't have a formal and fair review of the pattern itself. I'm sure if someone with more garment sewing experience could give more insightful comments on it, but I will say that I did really enjoy quilting the material used for the fabric. I have previously quilted some of the first quilts I've pieced and didn't love doing that, so my most recent quilts, like the one here, were sent to a long arm quilter, and I prefer piecing and then getting it back and then binding it. That is just the ideal workflow for me. So I guess maybe I don't even fall into the quilter category. I'm more of a sewist, but I really had a good time quilting these pieces because they were smaller, they were more manageable. And so I just straight lined quilted all of the pieces that made up the jacket. I had some batting left over from the days where I used to quilt my quilts myself, and so that was really great to get to use what I already had there instead of having to buy more items. And I did have to take some of those scraps and sew them together, so I just used a zigzag stitch and pieced those pieces together, which is just awesome. I love that you're able to do that with batting, and so I was able to use up everything I had. So saving those scraps really does pay off sometimes, and now I've kind of busted that stash, if you will. I did buy some thread for this project. I used Aurifil, which is my favorite thread. I did buy 2 of the small sizes of their 50 weight cotton thread. I bought one in yellow, one in purple, and the purple I used for the binding and a good amount of the piecing, and the yellow I used for the quilting. I did run out of the yellow for the quilting, so just a piece of advice to you: if you are also planning on creating this jacket, you do need more thread. Thankfully, I had some extra yellow thread on hand, but it wasn't an exact match, and it wasn't Aurifil, which is generally what I trust and prefer. So I did not have time to buy more though, so I made it work. The other thing is, because I quilted my own, this pattern is written for you to quilt your own if you would like, or for you to upcycle an existing quilt into the garment. And so with that said, it does give you yardage based on sizes. So I believe for this size, I bought 2 or 3 yards of each fabric. So the pattern and then the lining. And then that lining, I did add an extra ½ yard on, just knowing I would need it for binding. If I could go back, I would probably add another ½ yard, if not another full ½ yard to that amount. I really did use almost every inch of that fabric that I bought of my Bella Solid, and I panicked a little bit. So just keep that in mind. If you're someone that likes to have all of your fabric and you like to have a little extra left over just in case you make a mistake or it just makes you feel better, do it. Put the extra few dollars into it. I certainly wish I would have. This definitely took all of what I purchased. So it worked out in the end, but be mindful of that, especially if you're not going to purchase a little bit more than you know you need. So let me take you through a little bit of my process. I first started out by cutting the fabric according to the pattern. Now, I actually made a really big mistake here. You can see I am cutting up the fold. You're not supposed to do that for the back of the jacket, and I definitely realized it halfway through and was very upset by it, but thankfully I used my problem solving skills, so we did recover. But this is just an example of using a pattern in a different way that's not a quilt pattern. So definitely had to pay attention to some things that I don't normally have to pay attention to with making a garment versus making a quilt. Once I got everything cut out, I took my pieces back to my sewing machine to rectify the mistake I made. All I did was stitched it back up and pressed it open. So hopefully my friend doesn't notice too much. I think that the pattern here in the fabric was very forgiving because it was a busier pattern. You really can't even see the seam, and especially with the beautiful quilting, everything turned out fine. It was all fine. Now, to quilt all of my pieces, I did 1-inch straight line quilting. So I just took a ruler and my friction pen. I know that these are a bit controversial. Some people love them, some people hate them. I tend to really like it and haven't had any issues with them, so I did use it to mark my lines for my straight line quilting. Again, I just marked 1 inch in all one direction, and then I did more of a diamond shape, so then I did more straight lines perpendicular to those original straight lines. And then I made my quilt sandwich. So that was just my solid fabric, my batting, and then my patterned fabric. And this definitely took the longest time out of everything. Spent a lot of time straight line quilting, but thankfully for the most part, it was pretty easy sewing, and I love the final result. Totally worth the work. Let's also talk about binding, because this was certainly a different experience as well. It was a lot like binding a quilt, and I made my binding more like true quilting binding and not necessarily like I believe it's called double fold bias tape. That was just really tedious for me, and so I preferred to go about it this method. I did cut my binding at 2¼ inches. That was just the size I preferred. And then I stitched it the way I would typically stitch it onto a quilt, which is putting right sides together of the binding and the front, and then stitching that raw seam. and then pressing open and folding that binding to the back. I like to stitch in the ditch. That is my preferred method of machine binding. And so I did that here. I used Wonder Clips, but I will say I tended to have more accuracy with using actual pins. So you'll see some of that throughout the video. I just felt like it helped catch the back of that binding on the other side of my quilt sandwich better, and allowed me less opportunity to have to go back and restitch out some pieces where I might have missed the back of the binding. That's definitely my biggest challenge is machine binding. So if you have any tips or tricks, I would appreciate them, because I am not someone that enjoys hand binding. And especially for something like this, I want the strength of a machine bound stitch. So ultimately it worked out and I think it looked nice, but I'm always here for some extra tips when it comes to binding. So once my pieces were quilted and I did the binding of the initial seams that I needed to cover, like the raw edges, so that would have been the pocket and the tops of the shoulders as well as the sleeves, I went ahead and started putting everything together. This was so exciting seeing it come together. So I just put some pins in the pieces that I needed to stitch down. And when it came to just the raw edges, I did stitch my seams accordingly. And then when I needed to stitch like the pocket down, I stitched in the ditch again, just to keep it as invisible as possible. And then it was time to sew these items together. Now, one thing that was also different about quilting versus garment sewing, in quilting, you are pretty universally using a 1/4 inch seam. I have not really run into any situations where that is not the case, although I'm sure those cases do exist. With this project, I did utilize a 1/4 inch seam for the binding and for some other areas, but primarily I was using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and so that was different. It was good. I know it helps with the structural integrity, but it was something I had to pay attention to because my natural inclination as a quilter is to automatically do everything at a 1/4 of an inch. So I'm sure my sewing machine was excited to do something a little bit different today. Once I got the pockets onto the front of the jacket, I pinned right sides together of the front and the back of the jacket together. I used my Wonder Clips here. These are really helpful when you are dealing with thick fabric or with multiple pieces of fabric like I am here. Just takes a lot of the aggression out of needing to use pins, and keeps everything together really nicely. And so from here, I went and just started stitching everything together. I did appreciate so much in this pattern how there are no raw edges in this jacket. I think it makes it look so well made, so professional. And to be honest, the quality of this jacket is so much more than probably anything I've ever purchased, which was really incredible to see because it really just encompasses the craftsmanship that goes into making a garment and makes me respect people who can make clothes like my great-grandmother Edie even more than I already did. It really is a work of art. And I wish it was more common in garment making in general today. Fast fashion has really taken over so much of what many people are able to afford and wear. Now, after I handled putting the front and back of the jacket together, it was time to work on the sleeves. I added binding to 3 of the 4 sides of the sleeves. I wanted the wrists to be bound as well as the inside of the sleeves, so that seam, and I just feel like it made it look really nice, as well as allows my friend to roll up her sleeves if she would like to and add a pop of color. So really, once the sleeves are on, it's just a matter of adding binding on the additional raw seams and then stitching everything up. So definitely worked best for me to use my Wonder Clips again and to turn everything inside out so I could handle that seam. Definitely had to go slow because when things start curving, you know, I don't want to get any extra fabric caught up in my needle or add some pulling or darts that aren't supposed to be there. So I did take my time here and it did pay off. But yeah, now it's starting to actually look like a jacket, which is pretty exciting. Other than giving this jacket away, I think my favorite part of making it was putting my label in it. These are new labels that I purchased from Ever Emblem on Etsy for 2024, and they do have my new last name in them. At the making of this video, I am not married yet, so I know that may be bad luck to some people, but I'm getting married in February, and so I wanted these labels to last me all year, and given that this is my first full finish of 2024, I think the timing worked out well, so bear with me on that one, but really excited to just see that as the final touch on this project. All right, now the part that you've all been waiting for, the giveaway to celebrate the 1,000 subscriber milestone of Edie's Craft Room. Again, thank you so much. So I have a little bundle of items here I would love to give away to one of you. Unfortunately, I am limited to sending this to someone in the United States, so please only enter if you are located there and I will send it to you. So here is what you can win. The first is a charm pack. This is the Sentiments by K England charm pack. Some really pretty fabrics here. I would just love to see what one of you comes up with to use this charm pack in your sewing. Also have some greeting cards from Lori Holt. If you love Lori Holt style, you will absolutely love these fun and colorful cards to send notes to those you care about the most. I also have some 3.5 inch foundation paper for a square and a square quilt block. Really fun for those of you who enjoy foundation paper piecing, or maybe you're new to it and you want to try it out. This paper pad will get you started with what you need to try out that technique. And last but not least, I have some quilty labels. These are limited edition Keep It Quilty label sets. There are 12 in here. These are also from Fat Quarter Shop. You can personalize your quilts with a quilt label. Just sew it onto the binding with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and it contains 12 assorted woven labels with a center fold. So here's how you enter this giveaway. First of all, you need to be subscribed to the channel. Second of all, like this video. And the third thing that you need to do is to leave me a comment below and let me know what videos you would like to see more of from Edie's Craft Room. These can be videos that I have done in the past or something new and something that you would love to see from me in the future. So good luck to everyone who enters. I will be closing the contest a week from now, and I will be letting you know who has won the giveaway through the community tab of my channel. So I will be announcing the winner there. Once I do so, definitely send me an email. My email is ediescraftroom@gmail.com, and I will get your information privately there to make sure that everything gets sent to you. Thank you so much for joining me today on another chapter in my sewing journey. It was such a pleasure to have you here today. If you aren't already subscribed and would love to see future videos from me, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. It would mean the world to me. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't, feel free to shoot me an email or leave me a comment and let me know what I can do better next time. Until then, thank you for being here. Happy sewing, and I will see you next time.